Sir Isaac Newton was an English mathematician, theologian, astronomer, and physicist who is regarded as one of the most influential scientists of all time. He came up with three very important laws. These laws described motion and gave scientists a greater understanding about our world and how things work. Newton's first law states that anything moving will keep moving in the same direction and speed unless a force acts against it. Also, that anything at rest will stay at rest unless a force is applied to it. Simply put, objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and objects at rest tend to stay at rest. It is also known as the law of inertia. This simply means that things in motion don't spontaneously stop, slow down, or change direction. You have to overcome inertia to begin moving. Newton's first law can be explained by riding a bike. The bicycle remains still until I apply a force, which is pedaling. If I don't apply a force, the bike would not move. As you can see, at the start, the bike wobbles. This is because I have to overcome inertia to begin moving. According to Newton's first law, the bike should remain in motion until a force is applied. As you can see, the bike keeps moving forward until a force is applied, which is the friction between the tyres and the road caused by the brakes. Newton's second law states that the acceleration of an object is directly related to the magnitude and direction of the force acting on the object, and inversely related to the mass of the object. Or simply put, force equals mass times acceleration. To cause an object to accelerate, a force must be applied. The greater the force, the faster it will accelerate. The more mass you or the object have means a greater force has to be applied for it to accelerate. In the case of riding a bicycle, the force is me turning the pedals. This force helps me overcome Newton's first law of inertia. The harder I push on the pedals, the bigger the force and the quicker I accelerate. When I apply the brakes, the friction between the road and the tyres causes the bike to decelerate. If the mass of the bike increased, say by adding bricks, it would mean that to move the bike and accelerate, I would have to apply a greater force. Newton's third law states that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. This relates to the bike. As the two wheels turn, they create an action-reaction pair with the ground. The action is the wheels turning and pushing backwards on the ground. Because I'm really tiny compared to the earth, it barely moves. But the reaction propels me forward in the opposite direction to the rotation of the wheels. When I apply the brakes, another action-reaction pair is created. The friction between the tyres and the road is the action, and the reaction is the bike decelerating and eventually stopping. In summary, Newton's three laws can be explained by riding a bicycle. The first law applies to riding a bike, as the bike does not stop moving until a force is applied, which is my foot turning the pedals. Also, the bike keeps moving in the same direction and speed until I apply another force, which is the friction caused by the brakes. The second law applies, as when the force is applied by me turning the pedals, I accelerate it at a slow rate, as the bike and myself are heavy. But as I applied a greater force, I began to accelerate and maintain a speed. Then, the force of friction caused by the brakes caused the bike to decelerate and eventually stop. The third law applies, because as the wheels turn, they push back on the ground, creating an action. This causes an equal and opposite reaction of the bike accelerating forward.